The number one source of friction in your engine is not what you think. Piston rings rubbing against the cylinder walls generate more friction than any other part of the engine. More friction and temperature means more wear and less horsepower. Fortunately, the team at Total Seal knows how to reduce friction and wear through innovative piston ring design. If it takes a piston, Total Seal can build a better ring.
For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio back on the air. We're getting closer and closer to burning nitro. That is right. Big show for you today, and I like to be honest with the audience. There's a little pre-recorded action. That is right. Our guest today, Sean Bellemeur, your 2024 Lucas Oil Top Alcohol Funny Car World Champion, joined me earlier in the week. And what the deal is I got a little construction going on here at the WFO Radio studios. And rather you guys be aggravated and annoyed by the sounds of hammers and like somebody can fall through the ceiling for all I know, we did a little pre-record action. So if you're commenting and you're like not seeing your comment, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I don't even know you're doing it. But the good news is we'll be back next week in its entirety. Our Lucas Oil Parade of Champions. You know, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And we always talk about the Lucas Oil Series, how important they are to the sport of drag racing, especially the top alcohol ranks. And so let's bring them on. We'll tell you about our great sponsors. You know, the guys, CWT Industries, Bernie's Speed Shop, Jesse Converters, of course, Total Seal FTI, everybody that supports our program, HusseyPerformance.net, Foggett, everybody. We'll tell you about them right after Sean. But let's bring him on. World champ, Sean Bellemeur, who's got the sun setting right behind him. What's up, Sean? How are you? Congratulations.
Thanks, man. It's good to see you, Joe. Yeah, another beautiful evening here in California, and just enjoying some family time before we get after it again. It's coming fast. Yes, it is coming fast.
All right, so California is a very big and giant state, but you guys have been in the news and, you know, the fires and such. Is that something that is near you, affects you at all? What is your proximity to that unfortunate, horrible disaster?
Yeah, it's been pretty unbelievable here. My family, my wife and kids and myself are not in the way of the disaster areas here. We're about 15 to 20 miles from it. However, my father was actually right in the middle of it. Fortunately, he was evacuated. His house was spared. That's the house I grew up in with my mother and father. My cousin did lose everything. She was in the middle of the Eaton fire. And so a lot of friends from high school, things like that, we know have been affected. It's been a big mess here, but you know, it's also been a testament to seeing communities rally together, and people that have never met my cousin are reaching out to me and my family, and making it known that they are here for anything they need. It's been overwhelming, and you know, and a lot of those people have been racers. I did a speech at the Division III banquet a few weeks ago about the fact of the racing community that has come out to support people in need at any time, regardless of the issue. It's almost overwhelming. I made the joke that people that I know don't even like me. I know that for a fact they don't like me, but they reached out to make sure my family and I were okay. So, you know, trying to make lemonade out of lemons with such a terrible tragedy here in Southern California. But, you know, it's still home here. It's still beautiful. And the people that were so amazingly impacted by this, they will rebuild, and you know, they will do so with a lot of help.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting us a little bit behind the scenes personally on that. The news coverage has been just encompassing, and the devastation, and it's been really weird to see people who aren't there like kind of try to process what actually happened. The bottom line is, though, people helping people, little empathy, sympathy, not empathy. We don't want that.
Yeah.
but it's great to hear that, like, the rallying together. But at the same time, you're a racer. You won a championship. We got a lot to talk about. You went to the Rolex 24. I want to ask you that. I appreciate, you jumping on board and helping tell this story. I almost don't know where to begin, but I do know where to begin, because where we last parted ways, you and I, was at the awards banquet in Pachanga. And guys, we were in the men's room, me and Sean, and I was getting ready to leave. And you're like, my speech, man, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something different with my speech. And I didn't hear it because I was going to go down and prepare for the red carpet, but I heard a lot about it. And you took a leadership role there in the sport of drag racing. What inspired you to switch up your whole championship speech and use the moment to kind of, in many ways, mentor the young champions?
Joe, because as blessed as I have been to get to hook up with someone like Tony Bartone and be a part of his racing operation, I was that guy that for years just never dreamed of that. And, when we first started kind of reeling off some race wins and doing well, it was my dad that pulled me aside. My dad was a longtime racer here in Southern California, had a fair amount of success himself, but was never really on the national tour. And he pulled me aside after we'd won a few, and he says, you have to understand how special this is, what you've got going on. And so he's done a really good job of grounding me. And over the years, it's been important to me, because I was that kid that always dreamed of actually getting to get paid to drive a race car and look toward the future of the sport, not just the here and today, but look forward, because it does matter. And it is, what we're doing right now is influential on the future. So, fortunately, I've been lucky enough to have been to a couple of these banquets and have made a few speeches. And, the people that we always thank, they understand that, maybe I didn't spend a ton of time on them this time, but it was more about, talking to some of the younger people about what bigger picture this is really all about. And it was a great evening. I gotta be honest, I was sicker than hell that night, and in fact my wife ended up taking me to the hospital the day after Pachanga. But so I wasn't feeling the best that night, but it was a great celebration. Bunch of great champions, both younger and older. And I got to tell you, a highlight for me that night, Joe, was I got to stand on the stage next to Mark Powick. He was one of my heroes growing up as a pro stock racer, and to see his emotion of winning his world championship, it's enlightening. And it was really a cool, special moment.
Wow, that's cool. Cowboy, love Cowboy. Cowboy's a friend, and that's awesome that you're inspired by him. And I'm sure he's inspired by you. He would love to have 4 world championships. So let's look back on the season a little bit. I remember speaking with Tony after winning Indy, like the 4th time or whatever it is. Like, the numbers are stacking up now. 4 championships, these Indy wins. It's really been amazing. And he, I don't want to describe him. You could describe him, but he's kind of like, it appears he has a tough exterior, we'll put it that way. But he seemed kind of moved by the whole thing. Like this doesn't make sense that we've done this so many times.
Tony's an interesting human being, and I love him to death. He has been absolute gold to myself, my family, and anybody that wears that Bartone shirt will tell you the same thing. But the infrastructure he put together years ago to start this process has really spread like wildfire. And I probably shouldn't use that term here, being what we just talked about, but it really has, because we went from a top alcohol funny car team that, we kind of put together and see how well we do. And we did really well. Well, then comes his son with the sports car team. You talked about the Rolex 24. That's happening. And then the success of the funny car, really got to a point to where we were having to push harder than ever, simply because of our competition. And so it really put us to the test with Doug Gordon and now Maddie Gordon and the competition over the years. It went from being, okay, this winning thing is, I don't want to call it ever easy, but we were on a string to where these guys are beating down our door to kick our butts. And so the fact that our team did what it has done to adjust and kind of continue that domination it did, that kind of, I don't want to say surprised all of us, but I know Tony was moved by it. The adjustments made, I mean, that's what you always hope for and expect, but to actually execute those kinds of things has been pretty awesome. But I know I can speak for Tony when I say where his racing operation is right now. If you'd have asked him that 5 years ago, he probably would have said no way. And on a lot of accounts, both in the drag racing and the sports car.
Yeah, alcohol funny car, such quality in the class. And that's kind of like the definition that I landed on. It's like you might have 11 cars in the class, but they're all good, right? Everybody's good. And it feels like more on the way. We're going to speak with you about what you've got going on in 2025. But since we mentioned the sports car team, let's talk about that. There were a couple of times this year where we got to make the announcement on the air that it was a Bartone Bros Racing intercontinental double. Like they were winning something in Portugal while you were winning something here in the States. And I'm getting text messages from Cameron and he's like, dude, we're going to win again. Like what's happening out there? And just really amazing that this team is, sports cars with Mercedes and top alcohol funny car in the NHRA. That's not normal. Tell us about your Rolex 24 experience, top 5 in class for the good old number 69. That's pretty cool. How was it?
I was unsure of what I was going to see when I went to the Rolex 24. I'll be perfectly honest, Joe. I did not know a lot about the IMSA series. I knew enough about Team Mercedes and Get Speed Racing with Bartone Bros Racing, and I knew enough just to kind of understand the lingo. And Cameron Evans was one. You just mentioned him a minute ago, but when I got to when I got to Daytona and Nick Stoms, our team manager and bottom end guy, truck driver and all that, he flew down as well. And Lauren McMaster, our other teammate, they're down there in Florida. The three of us went out. And by the time I was done speaking with both Cameron and Andy Pilgrim, which what a guy to get an education from on sports car racing, right?
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, but now I'm a fan for life now. I'm terrified of them. I don't think I'd ever get in one, but what an event. The strategizing, the racing vehicles themselves, the technology behind them is absolutely incredible. The venue of Daytona International Raceway is, that's your country there, Joe. I'm sure you've been there. It's
yes.
Larger than life, 100 times over larger than life. I was like a little kid in a candy store from the minute I got there. Tony put together such an incredible race team and gave them an opportunity, put the pieces together to give them an opportunity to go out and do well. And that they did. But watching Get Speed team and their strategy was really fascinating. Cameron was there to kind of educate me on what they were doing and why. And as the track got cooler, why they're doing this or that. It was really fascinating. And I already put a bug in Tony's ear. I said, man, if you guys do this again next year, I'm sure you'll need my moral support again, won't you? It was a lot of fun.
Did you, is there anything from the Rolex 24 sports car team that you could adopt for drag racing? Namely, the masseuse situation, from what I understand, that all the drivers have got like someone to. And what about the food? Because I hear that the food is really incredible. Everybody gets fed. Is it true that sports car life is over the top when it comes to like the masseurs and the food?
Yeah, that it is. And I got to tell you, Joe, being a grungy old drag racer, we did throw a little bit of shade back and forth between us and the Team Mercedes drivers, which, by the way, all of them were great. Had a great time meeting with them, interacting, talking about the different vehicles. It was really cool interacting with them. But I did give him a hard time about the whole masseuse thing. I told him, I said, if you want a real quick, like half-second massage, I said, go get in that funny car when Steve Boggs was pissed off on a hot track, because that thing will shake the kinks right out of you. Trust me.
There you go.
But yeah, it's a different way of racing. That's for sure. Now, I will admit, I have never sat in a race car for hours on end, going 200 around Daytona and then having to stop and go left and right and pulling side G's big time for, like I said, a couple hours. So maybe they need massages after all. That's a little different than I know. I was asked numerous times throughout the weekend, what are the differences? What would it be? Would you ever do it? Things like that. And the word I kept using is crude. I'm a crude funny car racer. And so you'd have to knock all the rest off of me for me to be able to be successful in one of those things. The drivers, their precision, the setup of the cars, the teams, everything, there is not a hair out of place. And that's just a little different than funny car racing. Funny car racing, you roll up your sleeves and you get that thing down there no matter what it takes. So it was a heck of an education for me. I enjoyed the hell out of it, but I think I'll stick to my funny car. Thanks.
I would hope so. I would love to be able to set up the funny car on the the speedway stretch there at Daytona and have the sports cars pass you, and then you accelerate, but by the time you get you would pass them like right away, which is amazing. But drag racing was all for a short attention span, folks like us, right? Like, I don't want to say ADD, but definitely short attention span folks love drag racing. All right, so let's go back to the 24 season. It was kind of an interesting season. You mentioned Doug stepping out for Maddie. So your rival, Doug Gordon, kind of did the, Obi-Wan Kenobi and decided to step back so he could let the next generation come up. She was tough, but at the start of the season, you guys looked like you were just on a mission, right? Like, we're not going to be denied this year. And that's the way the season appeared to me. What was it like for you? And I would love for you to go over some of the highlights. Obviously, we've got the Stampede of Speed. That was pretty big. And because that's a track where you got your first cowboy hat. That's where it all began for you. But we talked about Indy. So just kind of walk us through your season a little bit, an alcohol funny car, and highlight the things that mattered to you.
The start of the success for the 2024 season actually happened in 2023. And it's widely known how I felt after Dallas of 2023, where, in a matter of an hour and a half, you win the Jegs All-Stars and then get your heart broken because you get beat on a hole shot and lose the world championship. And Joe, I'm not kidding when I say that absolutely tore me in half. And we made a little bit of an internal pact as a team that we were going to do our best to try to be virtually unstoppable after that. And so really it started after Dallas in 23. We won Vegas, we won Pomona at the end of 23. And so that was really the plan once we got into the off season in 23-24 season was let's just keep doing that. Let's not forget how sad we were, how pissed off we were. Let's not forget how embarrassed we were. And I'm speaking upon me. I was absolutely embarrassed. And I probably thought about that sitting in the car with my helmet on 2-3 times a weekend, every race last year. And that's what kept me going. That's what kept me trying to cut teen lights and racing, leaving on these converter cars. And, Maddie's coming out, she's got something to prove. And, she's in a world champion car. That is literally the car that won the world championship in 2023. So she was hungry. She's a great student of the sport, great student of the class. She even come up and, and I told her when she got started, over and above the rivalry, they are some of my closest family friends. And so I told her, I said, Maddie, set the rivalry aside for a second. If you have a question about anything, good, bad, or ugly, I am there for you. I will answer it in any way. And we did have a few conversations throughout the season, some of the different racetracks and their nuances. And so needless to say, you knew she was going to be tough. And she went out, won a race, won a really big race for the 100th woman in drag racing, a national event. And, and there's a lot of cars out there, as you said, they're either coming or they're here. Phil Ez, look at the improvement he had over the years. Chris Foster, seemed like we couldn't get away from Chris Foster all year. He gave us a heck of a run, and Bob McCosh doing his thing. And, so the motivation was really not about who was in the other lane. It was about the fact that we did not want to have happen to us in 24 that happened in 23. And we actually had a little bit of a mechanical failure in Gainesville to start the season. And we thought, well, let's not lose sight of the goal here. And so we on to the next one. And from there, it just seemed like we started rattling off wins. And that's, once you get them rolling, you just kind of stick to the plan and things just sort of work themselves out.
Amazing. No, amazing. Steve Boggs, we say his name, Killer Bees, all of that, but I got to hang out with you guys a little bit, like a couple minutes in Brainerd, and just like seeing the way he thinks a little bit was really interesting. This guy has just done so much. I would love for you to try to explain his abilities to our audience beyond the numbers in the championships.
Joe, the best I can describe him is when there's those people that think outside the box. He's drawn a rectangle. At 81 years old, which is, think about that for a second. At 81
Crazy.
Years old,
Amazing.
Staying on top of the technology of these cars and the latest and greatest and the newest tricks. And, there's only so much experience can take you. And so the fact that he is at his age doing what he's doing, staying on top of the game, is absolutely amazing. And the way he puts it is, these cars basically have all the same parts in them. We all have to race on the same racetrack in the same weather. So what's going to make us better? And he said, that's homework. We're going to think where we can beat them, where others aren't going to think of it. And that's what he does. He never stops. He's over in Ohio, so we've got a 3-hour time difference. He'll call me at 10 o'clock at night. I say, I'll be whispering in the phone. Well, Steve, I'm trying to put my kids to bed. He goes, well, I got something. I'm working on something here. Call me in the morning. He just never stops. And so, where he is that much better than everybody, I firmly believe, Joe, is just simply in his work ethic. He literally does not stop. We actually made a rule at the races that he can't take the laptop back to the hotel with him because he won't go to bed. And so you're not going to find anybody else with that kind of dedication, his experience, his memory. You ask him, hey, what did you and your brother Ronnie do in 1978 in Columbus? He'll tell you exactly what happened, what main jet he put in the thing, and why it did good or not. And so and on top of that, if you just ran into the guy at the bar or at the grocery store or something, you just think he's a regular guy who just loves drag racing. And so, he is the ultimate fan of the sport. He's intense as hell. He's tough as beans, the old farm boy. And, I'm really, really glad he's wearing the same shirt I am, because, I know just about every other race team out there would love to have him.
Wow. That's amazing. And, like it occurs to me that, we make a big deal about the diversity in our sport. And one of the things that I always like to point out, and maybe nobody likes to get old, right? But it's a sport where old people can still thrive. And there aren't too many of those, right? Like there's ageism everywhere, but could Steve Boggs be like the oldest world champion? Like the guy won the world champion. He's a world champion tuner. He's 81. Like Who is the oldest world champion of something that matters? Like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. And, I discuss things like records and stuff with Phil Burgess at NHRA a lot. And, Phil has really reached out and expressed his fandom, so to speak, for Steve Boggs, because not only his age, like you say, I mean, is there anybody that's done it who's older? But he's spread all over the map. He's done nostalgia top fuel cars, injected nitro dragsters. He ran a car with his brother that was both blown on alcohol and injected nitro, that it didn't know whether it wanted to be a funny car or a front engine dragster or an altered. It was something kind of in between. They won with that. So, the fact is that he's able to do wonderful things with whatever hand he's dealt. The clutch we run in the current funny car, we run that clutch for one reason and one reason only. And that was because years ago, everybody out there said, you're not going to be successful with that clutch. And Steve Boggs put a cigar down and said, watch this. And now most of the cars out there who still run clutches run that clutch because that's the one Steve Boggs was successful with. So he's got his common sense. He outthinks you. He's a lot of fun to be around. He's aggressive as hell, which I love as a driver. I think my driving and his tuning are very conducive to one another, and we have a lot of fun together. He'll tell me dumb little things. I can't remember where we were. Maybe in Norwalk, and the air was really, really good. And I was walking through the staging lanes, about ready to get in the car, and he picked up the sleeve of my fire suit, and he kind of looked at it for a second. I said, "What are you doing, Boggs?" And he said, you got your spare fire suit here? I said, yeah. He goes, you might want to wear both of them for this run. I've got her hopped up. And it went low ET and top speed. I mean, just stuff like that keeps things light. He's a lot of fun to be around, and you know, I don't know how I can, you know, freeze his DNA and keep him around another 20 years, but I'm gonna do my best.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's defying the laws of age so far, because he looks great and he's out there and he's enjoying his stuff. All right, let's look forward. Let's break some news. Let's talk some alcohol funny car, a class of drag racing that is a personal favorite. It's got its diehards. It needs more love. A couple of years ago, NHRA made a rules change and allowed a lot of rules changes, right? We got our 2 steps on the starting line. We've got all kinds of different stuff going on. You guys still kick it old school, but what to do with a 4-time champ? Am I right that you might be breaking out something different? What can you share with us?
Well, Joe, yeah, you know, we've been piecing together an injected nitro funny car over the past couple of years, and she's finally done. It's in the box and it is headed to Florida. We are actually going to start testing it this weekend. Now, that is not a commitment that we're running the car this year in competition. We still have the blown alcohol car. It is literally ready to go to the starting line, just the way it was the last time we ran it. And, you know, with as well as that car ran last year, why would you ever change, right? But, you know, Steve Boggs has a love for injected nitro, and he ran it with his brother, and was wildly successful and won world championships with alcohol dragsters and injected nitro. Morgan Lucas drove for him, and Mitch Meyer won world championship with. So Steve thinks there's something there. He thinks there's a performance advantage potentially. So we're going to go give it a shot, and we're going to run it this weekend in Florida, and then just see. We may use a few races such as the Baby Gators to test with it. We'll see if we want to run the blown car. Tony has basically given us the green light to do whatever wins us a championship, and that's good. Now, NHRA does have a rule in place where you can only switch combinations so many times. So, of course, we're going to, you know, honor that rule. But I'm excited. It's been a few years since I've driven a nitro car of any kind, so it'll be fun to get some nitro back through my veins. And what I'm not looking forward to is I absolutely adore revving up that thing on the starting line and shifting at 10,000, and I'm not going to get to do that at all. But you know, I'm sure this injected car will present its challenges. You know, Steve has told me a couple of things. Be ready. This thing may go out, and if it tries to fly, it may try to pick the front end up way out there and do a few things. So you know, it's going to take some adjustment on my part, but you know, back to my nostalgia Top Fuel days, where pump on the high side and clutch pedal off, and basically do your best not to hit anything. That's going to be the goal. And I'm excited for the journey. I'm excited for this project with Boggs, because this is something he's been really excited about for the past couple of years, and it's finally done. It's been a heck of a project, a lot of frustration, some parts that were built that were incorrect and put us behind, but that's all in the past now. We're ready to go, and I'm excited to step on the gas, see what happens.
Wow. Sean Bellemeur, 4-time top alcohol funny car champ, to injected nitro funny car. Possibly you're going to test it, and that is cool. What body is on this thing, Sean? What kind of body?
You know, it's a Camaro body, just like the other alcohol cars. Murph McKinney chassis. McKinney builds, you know, unbelievable cars, as we all know. And so they basically took the alcohol funny car body and beefed it up a little bit, more wing in the back. So it will be, should anyway, film at 11, but should provide the downforce we're looking for and be plenty safe. And so, you know, to the naked eye, it'll look a lot like the alcohol Camaro. It's got just a regular fuel injector on it, just like the other ones. We didn't want anything big and goofy sticking way up out of the body. So try and make it look like a funny car still as much as we can. And Steve keeps, you know, I keep whining to Steve. I said, but Steve, you know, I don't get to shift it or anything. And he said, trust me, you'll have plenty to do. So, you know, I think he's excited. And for that, I'm excited. I know the team's ready to go. And, you know, over and above everything else, it's been a long winter. I'm ready to go racing.
Yeah, no, I am too. I'm excited myself. And kind of be interesting, right? Like Mick Steele's body seems like it's just off a fuel car, right? Like a fuel funny car. It looks like, you know, one of the Mustang bodies. So this kind of like a hybrid, almost like alcohol funny car Camaro with additional spoiler for downforce. Like that could probably end up looking pretty cool. Can't wait to see it. And you guys are going to test in Florida this weekend, but you're debuting at the Baby Gators, correct? Which is like days from now, not that far.
Yeah, the plan right now is to test the injected car The blown alcohol car is in the shop in Long Island right now. It's ready to go. And so after we test, basically we're going to sit down as a team and make a determination as what are we going to start the season with. And if we feel that we need the baby Gators for more track time for the injected car, we will do that. If Steve's satisfied with what he sees, then we'll go out and snag the alcohol car and head back to Florida again. So you're right. I mean, it's around the corner, don't look now, but baby Gators are coming, and it's exciting to see. And for me with the injected car, I'm excited to get beside somebody, because I'm going to need that, to build a routine with somebody in the other lane. And, don't forget, we got a couple 4-wide races coming up. So if I'm going to be driving an injected car, not saying I am, but if I am, I'm going to need to build a routine that's conducive and, doesn't mess everybody else up and everything. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. And, from what I'm hearing, there are a few injected funny cars being built for the NHRA series, which I know is a big focus point. But, I really believe that a fair amount of people were kind of waiting to see what we were going to do and waiting to see what body Steve was going to put on the car and things like that. So now that, that floodgate's open a little bit, I think we're going to start seeing some more cars.
Well, I'm excited. Whatever it takes, we got to have alcohol funny car. It's a great class. Again, quality, but a little quantity wouldn't be a bad thing either. Sean, thank you very much for making the time for us. A little world championship talk with the soil, top alcohol funny car ranks. Thank you for sharing those great personal stories. Obviously, what you guys are going through out west is just tough stuff. But I agree. Can't wait to see you back on track. But congratulations on your 2024 World Championship, your 4th. And Tony, he knows how to put together a team. That's for certain.
The first thing Tony said was strive for 5 and 25. So that's the number one goal. I appreciate it, Joe. I look forward to seeing it at the races.
Sounds great. See you there. Appreciate you. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks.
There you go. Sean Bellemeur, your world champ in the Lucas Oil Series Top Alcohol Funny Car Eliminator. What a great debrief, whether it be sports cars. He's not feeling well right now. He comes across great. One of the best interviews in drag racing, in my opinion. But the injected funny car, what do you think about that? Nitro injected funny car and top alcohol funny car. The world champion is going to be testing. No guarantees that they're going to be running it, but I think that builds a little interest. All right, we're going to do final thoughts when we come back. Final thoughts here on WFO Radio.
Looking to replace your OEM diesel particulate filter or diesel oxidation catalyst? Look no further than DPF XFit, a complete line of aftermarket diesel particulate filters and diesel oxidation catalysts designed as an exact fit OEM replacement with all makes coverage for light, medium, and heavy-duty trucks. With thousands of units in stock, we ship the same or next day, and be sure to check out our comprehensive reverse OEM lookup tool. Always new, never remanufactured. For more information, be sure to visit dpfxfit.com. That's dpfxfit.com.
Thank you very much to everybody who supports the show. And again, pre-recorded show, but if you're watching in the future in the archive, of course, they're all pre-recorded. But we would love for you to smash the bell down there on YouTube. Click subscribe, smash the bell, get the notifications. If you're an audio-only person, do all the same things on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or SoundCloud or wherever you get your podcasts. We're looking for a big year of WFO. Of course, the SCAG Pro Superstar Shootout going on in Bradenton, Florida. I am trying to get Project Pontiac track-worthy in front of the Speed World Orlando NHRA Southeastern Division season opener and NHRA season opener coming up in a few weeks, and plus construction on our WFO studios, right? Like nothing going on. But we wouldn't have anything going on if it wasn't for Bernie's Speed Shop, BURNYZZ.com. Bernie's is in Ocala, Florida. If you're planning your trip to the Gator Nationals, make your plan to go to the Bernie's Fan Fest on Wednesday night before the race. It's going to be wild. All the racers are going to be there. You see the showroom, you see all the cars, you see everything. Josh Hart and the team have done such a great job. Josh Hart in the news, always, perpetually. BURNYZZ. They're looking for inventory. Bernie Speed Shop. HusseyPerformance.net. David Allen, not just copperhead gaskets anymore. They are doing valve cover gaskets, oil pan gaskets, whatever you need. They're doing it in in their own gasket material, which is amazing. I put them on Project Pontiac on the exhaust headers. So check them out. 724-318-8292. That's his number. David Allen, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. Reach out to them. They've got contingency programs in Top Alcohol Dragster, Top Alcohol Funny Car, Top Dragster, Top Sportsman. That is in the NHRA national events, and they do PDRA as well. HusseyPerformance.net. Tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio, by the way. That goes for everybody here on WFO. CWT Industries, Balance Machines, Randy Neal, Machine Shop Guys. Listen, imagine if you could train somebody much easier on the balance machine, and the machine would guide them through it. And if they're touching the screens and it's doing it all, it's making money, it's doing it in less time, and it's doing it better. How do you walk away from that improvement? Go to CWTindustries.com. Reach out to Randy Neal or me, Joe at WFOradio.com, and I'll put you together. CWT Industries. Great job. Foggit. Available at Summit Racing Equipment. Like, if it isn't built with Summit, I don't know where it's built with. But Foggit, Foggit, available on Amazon, available at Foggit.com, but it's easiest to get it off Summit Racing Equipment. It is a spray that inhibits rust and corrosion inside your racing engine. And if I had a product like Foggit, I might not be building Project Pontiac, because what I had before might have survived. I think the block would have still cracked because I didn't have a motor plate, but that's a different story. We had, rusted lines down the inside of the cylinders, and that's what Foggit prevents. You'll find a whole bunch of other things to use it for too. If you want to support Project Pontiac, call and order some Foggit. Of course, our friends at FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters and Total Seal and Jesse and everybody that supports WFO Radio, including our Patreons. Patreon.com/WFO Radio. Michael Heiner did his first Hear It From Heiner Pro Stock show of 2025 and had his first ever guest. It's great for me to just be able to be like provocateur and cause problems. But Rob Downing, world champion crew chief. How many Rob Downing interviews do you get out there in the world? Not too many. Michael Heiner scored one, and it was really great to hear those guys talking pro stock. If you love pro stock, maybe you should become a Patreon. Patreon.com/WFO Radio. So you don't even have to like me. You're getting actual quality if you're a Patreon. Pretty cool. And Marvin Rodak, speaking of quality, 817-924-6821. 817-924-6821. Marvin Rodak has got the best of the best when it comes to coffee, hot sauce, spice rub, everything good. Grills, tools, tips, information, recipes, all on his website. Go to rodaxcoffeeandgrills.com and sign up and sign on, because Marvin is going to hook it up. He's roasting coffee probably right now. Honestly, he's roasting coffee right now. The WFO swag shop, it's happening, baby. Project Pontiac shirts, Miami Hollywood Speedway shirts, fire shirts. How about that? The voice is back. Finally. It's been forever. And everybody's wondering about Project Pontiac. Just click the YouTube videos, and more to come. We're rolling them out slow as we get closer to actually debuting the car. We don't want to get everybody, jazzed up and then not make it. Are we even going to make it? We're going to try to make it. Folks at Wright Trailers doing a great job for us. 833-31-WRIGHT. Wright Trailers nationwide. The one I went to is in Lakeland, Florida, and they just absolutely shocked me. There's a video on their YouTube channel that you will absolutely love. And you can always check out the show on PowerTube TV. PowerTube has got their own app for Apple. It's all coming out, and you can watch all the great shows. All right, guys. Now, not your typical Tuesday show. And if you're watching in the future, it's not Tuesday at all anymore. But I thank Sean Bellemeur for helping me do this, because the walls could come tumbling down at any second in the actual space-time continuum. This past weekend, I did Fastlane Friday at Homestead Miami Speedway. We had our best Fastlane Friday ever. More 5-second runs to the 8th mile than ever before. Pretty crazy. Ron McGill from Zoo Miami had a meltdown because they told him he lost, but he actually won. I saved the day. All kinds of good stuff happening at the start of the season. And I want to wish everybody good luck at the Pro Superstar Shootout. Good luck, guys. Everybody stay safe. I will be shooting over there for one day. Check out the scene. Give my support. Good luck to your football team in the Super Bowl. The Eagles or the Chiefs. Who's it going to be? I don't know. I don't know who I want to win. I'm a Dolphin fan. Perfect season. Do I need a team winning 3 in a row and making that argument about being the greatest single accomplishment in the NFL? 3 in a row, Super Bowl. I don't know. I don't think so. But I'm really just watching. I don't care. Just trying to get the car ready. Project Pontiac, get ready to hit the track. NHRA Super Street. 1090 index. How funny is that? Like, there's a slim possibility that Sean Bellemeur and I will be racing at the same race on the same track at the Baby Gators. How nutty is that? And that's what's amazing about the National Hot Rod Association. Like, lowly me could be out there. Very excited. Stay tuned to WFO Radio. More champions. Joe Sorensen coming up. Cooter Hidalgo coming up. We got them all coming up. Stay with us here on WFO Radio. Thank you to all for checking out the show, and your comments, we'll get to them next week. Appreciate you. Hey, make them on the YouTube video. That way we can check them out after the fact. WFO, guys. Thanks, Sean.